The average age of onset Parkinson's is 60-year-olds, so I want to show the face of people with Parkinson's, and I know that many times Michael J. Fox is the cover story for the disease.
We're here with the Baroness, the cattle Baroness of Northwest Arkansas, Carlene Morris. She is one of our Rocksteady Boxing participants, and we'll just get in with the interview. So, over the years, what has been your primary work focus?
Okay, well, I've worked 36 years in the superintendent of schools office, and well, not based all in superintendent of schools office, but in the Harrison School District. I was an aide for a few years, and then a position came open for an administrative assistant for our new superintendent, Charles Adair, and I interviewed with him and became his administrative assistant, and I worked there for like 30 some odd years until I retired in 2010-11, I believe.
Okay. All right. What was your most, in that position, what was your most favorite thing to do?
I don't know about most favorite, but the most challenging was the budget.
The budget?
The budget. And
so how big of a budget did you have to deal with?
It was in the millions. It didn't start out that way, but by the time I left, it was in the millions. And it was very challenging, to say the least.
I bet. So the budget, did that cover the high school, junior high, and all
schools?
Oh, wow. So that must have been one difficult thing there.
And 252 employees that we paid.
Okay, so the budget covered all the schools, all the teachers, and all the administrative people behind the scenes things.
That's great.
Oh, wow. Let's see. So there's not one thing that you really like to do that you can think of?
Well, just when you sign up a new person, a new employee, that was always neat to learn where they were coming from, what school they were coming from, and where they got their education. And probably there was a large chance that you might know, if they're coming from another school district, that you might know that school district or some of their employees that they knew.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, next question is, how long ago were you diagnosed with Parkinson's?
10 years ago. I was 59 years old, and I was thinking, well, I really wasn't thinking, I was nearing retirement age, and then I began to get sort of being anxious when I go to board meetings and have to take minutes, and if there was anything that come up that would challenge me, that would kind of set off an anxiety attack.
Okay. So let's see. What is probably one of the most difficult things to deal with in this disease for you?
Well, I've tended to, my personality has changed some. I'm always kind of a challenging person, but my husband has said that I'm harder to get along with. I'm more opinionated, and I like my way.
Okay.
And I can see that. You can too, can't
Yes.
you?
Yes, I can. Yes. All right. So is there any humor or humor would be a good word to use to kind of get you through some of your harder times
Well, you
with
have
the disease.
You have to laugh, because if you don't, you'll cry.
Okay.
And sometimes I tend to get want to have a pity party, and then I think, you can either do that, you can either laugh about it, or you can cry about it, and crying won't do a bit of good, and laughter is the best medicine.
That's right. Yeah. So other than where you live, is there any place that you would call your happy place or would like to go just to visit?
later on in our lives, we started going to the mountains. We started going to Colorado and going up on our side-by-side rides up to the 14,000
Oh, cool.
mile high mountains, and it's always cool. And I do better with cool than hot with the Parkinson's. So I would like to do that again. And I've always enjoyed traveling, and I'm always up for traveling, but it's another thing that causes anxiety. So
Yeah, I think we've talked about that a little bit there, especially when you go down and visit your daughter. You said you finally got the courage to fly down there by yourself
By
not too
myself.
long ago. How about talking about that a little bit?
well, I don't know. It's just like doing this interview here. It scares me. It's almost, you're afraid to be your real self
Okay.
because you've always been strong, and this disease, it eliminates your weaknesses, and it's hard for me to admit that to people.
Okay. All right. So why do you think Herb is taking his family, his wife and his daughter, out to Phoenix in the middle of summertime, the hottest days of the year? Why do you think he's taking them?
I don't know who he's trying to get to. I don't know, but I'm really glad that I've had the opportunity to meet Herb
Okay.
and become a friend to him, because he has always got something funny to say, and he is always on to new projects. I mean, the man never stops. He just goes like the Energizer Bunny. Although he doesn't go fast, he's still moving.
Yep.
And he's still coming up here, and he still encourages people, and he will sit and listen to you all day long if you wanted to talk to him. That's a friend, I think.
So do you have any speculation on why he's taking them out there?
I think it's. No, I'm not going to do that to him. I think it's because he loves Sandy and Christy, and he wants to give them some fun times.
All right. Okay. Well.
Okay, there's Alan Alda and real guys, father of real guys, and then you'll see a lot of other people like Muhammad Ali and other stars over the years. It's been determined, but a lot of the things, I guess, have been Michael J. Fox and his mannerisms.
You're just going to do it. His foundation has become a vital source of hope working with.
Okay, I want to do this podcast to cover some of the many faces of Parkinson's. I think we have gotten to the point where if you're not doing some of the things that Michael J. Fox is doing, then possibly you don't have Parkinson's. But I've been able to talk to the group at Rock Steady Boxing, and they all got different stories. Same for Brett Favre or Frank O'Meara as far as sports people. We're going to start with Ryan Reynolds and talk about his father. And of course, Willie Geist's father is Bill Geist. And it affects the mother of Victoria Ramirez. So a lot of people are indirectly affected.
He's in the jailhouse now.
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 I told him once or twice, but he read about to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'm glad he's still gamble and rob. He thought.
That's it, right there.
Today we're here with Elaine on the plane. Just a short interview about some of the stuff we do around here, and a little bit about her backstory, things like that, and her thoughts on herbal air. All right, so first question we're going to do is what was your primary work background as you were going through life? Give us a little bit of background on that.
Okay, I was hired by TWA Airlines and was a flight attendant for 40 years.
40 years.
Correct.
That's
TWA got bought out by American, so I went from TWA to American Airlines.
so.
But I was there in the best of times and then the worst of times.
Okay.
I
What were
was
the worst
hired.
of times?
Well, I'll start with the best. I was hired when people still dressed up in nice clothes, suits, and they were courteous to each other. And the worst of times was when everyone was throwing their bags in the overhead and wouldn't help each other. So I saw the best of people and the worst.
Okay. So any of the guys with their pants down around their hips and stuff
Oh yeah,
like that,
and people
that's-
wearing
that's what-
pajamas on the plane.
Oh, pajamas.
For a flight. Well, that's what it looked like.
So I guess you kindly covered that, but is there anything else you'd like to mention about what you enjoyed in your job?
I enjoyed the international part of it quite a bit because I got to see other countries and people's different customs, and just the beauty of Europe is amazing. The ruins and everything. But the food was fantastic too. I miss the different people though that I met. It was great.
So, who would you say was the most interesting person you met on one of your flights there?
I'd have to say Red Skelton.
Red
He-
Skelton.
Yes, and I have a picture of that he drew for me. He would always pick out one flight attendant and give it to them at the end of the flight, and it's hanging on my wall to this day. And I cherish it because he was an absolutely fantastic, kind, loving person.
Did he crack any jokes or anything?
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I used to love watching
Oh,
his.
yeah.
So do you remember any of the jokes he cracked or anything?
Well,
like
the
that?
one thing that he did for me, and it was humorous, but at the same time embarrassing, when I first met him, I was serving him and I said, "Oh, Mr. Skeleton, it is such a privilege to serve you." And he goes, "Oh, no, honey." He said, "It's Skelton, that comes later." he was cute, and he called everyone Dearheart, so it was Dearheart.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
he was great.
All right. Okay. So, how long ago were you diagnosed with Parkinson's?
That was 6 years ago.
6 years.
After I had retired, and it came as a shock, but you know, once you learn more about it, it is not as frightening as it is when you're first diagnosed, and you just find ways to deal with it. You don't just sit back and let it take over. You find ways to deal with it, and that's when I found rock steady boxing.
Okay. So what's the worst thing you have to deal with Parkinson's?
The tremors.
The tremors? Okay.
Yeah, because it's obvious to other people, and you know, you try to conceal it and just, you know, fit in with everyone, but that makes
Okay.
it pretty obvious.
Yeah, understand. Okay.
Okay, I wanted to do this podcast to cover some of the many faces of Parkinson's. I think we have gotten to the point where if you're not doing some of the things that Michael J. Fox is doing, then possibly you don't have Parkinson's. But I've been able to talk to the group at Rock Steady Boxing, and they all got different stories. Same for Brett Favre or Frank O'Meara as far as sports people. We're going to start with Ryan Reynolds and talk about his father. And of course, Willie Geist's father is Bill Geist. And it affects the mother of Victoria Ramirez.
Story, which is
A lot of people are
diagnosed at a
indirectly
young age.
affected.
My
Your
dad
dad
was 47.
as well as directly.
Yeah, and denial for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, we didn't name it for a long time.
No. And Matt might have said Parkinson's, I think, 3 times
Wow.
in his entire life. It's to me.
Generational, and the kind. My dad's from the Midwest. It's a little more, they didn't have therapists in the town where he lived.
No.
But the idea that it took years before we named it.
Yeah.
And it was always the neurological thing, like that has a neural. And then finally, my sister and I were like, "Is the neurological thing Parkinson's disease?"
Yes.
The Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And they go, "Well, yes, it is." So
Yeah.
that was kind of your experience as well.
Absolutely. But I can also see why neurological condition might sound a little bit less threatening or vulnerable than Parkinson's disease. You hear disease, you go. It was my experience exactly to a T. Like you and I and your pop. I mean, that's the exact same roadmap. And I understand it, I get it. My dad was like a prideful kind of guy who I think his physical strength was was a huge asset to him. He didn't go to college, he didn't do that, all those things that he wanted for us to do. And did I let him down there. But he was very prideful, and I think that is very common in that age group and those folks who grew up in that era. And it's interesting to see like how now like we having kids at our age and it's just so different. There's so many tools available to us. There's so many like resources available to. My kids never believe it, but when Blake and I will go out for dinner or something like that, the entire time is spent talking about how could we be better parents, how can we like address their needs in ways. It's just like I can't even imagine my parents having those conversations without, just going, oh God, this feels like chemotherapy. The cancer's gone. Let's enjoy dinner and let's just live in here forever.
It's so true. We go to these restaurants.
Yeah, when you think about Parkinson's, you think of the Michael J. Fox, but I'm going to talk about the joy we feel has little to do with the circumstance of our lives, but the focus of our lives. And that kind of came about as far as the finding a happy place being a podcast from my daughter and her issues with birth defects. So I want to reflect on that with some of the things that she's experiencing and other things that's come up in her life. Well, I did a podcast with Dr. George Ackerman, and he talks about the loss of his mother, Sharon, to Parkinson's, and he kind of goes over a lot of the things that caregivers can do. And he's a very interesting person that interviews out there. So, well, as you can see from my rehab, I started at a pretty low point. Things have gotten better. Okay, here's my real therapist. All right, another look at my therapist. We're kind of getting it together now. Well, maybe not this good, but I'm making efforts. Show you a little bit about how Christy's been an inspiration, as well as our son Craig. Here's a picture of Christy and Craig at a very young age, and here's Christy with her hog shirt and with her trusty friend Ozzy. I was having a discussion with my good friend Sid Shreve on a trip to Costa Rica, and we started talking about the circumstances of our lives. Had more, had less to do than the focus of our lives, and you can see Christy where her life is good, and I mentioned that. Things that she's overcome, kidney transplant, knee replacements, and now faced with some other issues.
Never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. We've known each other for so long,
Okay, there's a picture of and Robin Roberts, and there's Gus Malzahn, and Sidney Moncrief, and the Paytons were earlier, and Steve Sullivan. And there I am going up in the big balloon. And there's Mr. Hardball. And here's the guy that says I look a little bit like Terry Bradshaw, and there's some friends that's been married 60 years. Here we are up at Epic, my grandson's where he works up outside of Milwaukee, and we were touring Epic in the facilities that they have. And here's Christie's swimming pool, and then here we are at the beach, and here's the Bark Park, and this is the Frank Lloyd Wright and Qantas Parking, Legends of Golf, and there's Christie at a restaurant. So we were very active in going and doing.
One of the things in our trip to Scottsdale, Arizona, Christy and I met with Bryce Mulder, who was born in Harrison, Arkansas, and talked about overcoming his disability issues, and it's kind of made me aware of it. But I kind of joke about us starting a company in the Ozarks and being, I guess, delusional enough to think that we could take the system globally, and we were able to do that. So I guess delusion was part of mine from the beginning, or from the early stages. But I enjoyed being around a lot of people. You can see me there on the right, being Mr. Six. So I've had a chance to meet people. Dale White, Callaway. We have a lot of good times. Sidney Moncrief, J.J. Childers, and then Dr. Dean. He's been very instrumental in the wound clinic and getting over some of the things that I've been faced with. There's my friend up at Crystal Bridges, and here some of my friends at UAMS doing a spinal cord stimulator. So pretty open to a lot of things, and this a group at Rocksteady Boxing, and a lot of different stories there. And you can see Leslie Stahl's husband, who has passed away, and of course the executive director at the Museum Victoria. Her mother lives in Cleveland, and she has Parkinson's, as well as Dr. Dahl, chair of UAMS neurology. His dad lives in India, but he has Parkinson's. So my goal is to do rehab and see how things turn out. So that's kind of the stage we're in.
For 11 years, Alan Alda made us laugh as Hawkeye Pierce. He was talented, and people in the industry knew it. Still, he hadn't landed the kind of role that would make him a star. But then, everything changed. Alan Alda became a household name when he took on the role of Captain Benjamin Franklin Hawkeye Pierce in MASH. The show ran from 1972 to 1983 and followed the lives of doctors and nurses at a mobile army hospital during the Korean War. It was a war show, but it wasn't about battles. It was about people trying to survive in an unbearable situation. Humor was their defense against the horrors around them. No one embodied that better than Hawkeye. He was a brilliant surgeon, but he never took authority seriously. He cracked jokes, pulled pranks, and questioned every rule that didn't make sense. But under all of that, he cared deeply. He couldn't stop the war, but he could save lives. The name Hawkeye came from The Last of the Mohicans. In that story, the character was brave and resourceful. In MASH, Alda's Hawkeye lived up to that name. He fought battles of his own, not with guns, but with scalpels and words. He stood up for his patients, argued with commanders, and did whatever it took to keep himself and his friends from losing their minds. His quick wit made audiences laugh, but his anger and heartbreak made them feel the weight of war. Alda's performance made Hawkeye the center of the show. Some cast members felt the focus shifted too much toward his character, but audiences couldn't get enough. MASH became one of the most popular shows on television. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a statement. The show aired while the Vietnam War was still happening, and even though it was set in Korea, its message was clear. War was cruel. It destroyed people in ways that went beyond physical wounds. As the series went on, Alda took on more creative control. He wasn't just acting, he was writing and directing. His biggest achievement came in the final episode, Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. He co-wrote and directed it, giving the show an unforgettable ending. On February 28, 1983, millions of people tuned in to watch the last moments of MASH. The numbers were historic. Over 105 million people watched live, and the total audience reached 121 million. It was the most watched television broadcast in history at the time. The finale was more than just a goodbye. It was a reflection on everything the characters had been through. It captured their exhaustion, their grief, and their desperate attempts to hold on to their humanity. Some moments were funny, others were heartbreaking. The war was over, but no one was leaving untouched. People understand the world. Alan Alda and Arlene Weiss met in a way that felt like fate. It was 1956, and they were at a dinner party hosted by a mutual friend. At some point in the evening, a homemade rum cake slipped off the counter and landed on the kitchen floor. Most guests hesitated, but not Alan and Arlene. Without thinking twice, they both took a bite. That small, spontaneous moment brought them together. Alan has joked for years that after eating that cake, they were inseparable. 1 year later, on March 15, 1957, they got married. From the start, their relationship was built on trust, laughter, and a deep understanding of each other. Arlene, a photographer and writer, was always by Alan's side. She supported him through the highs and lows of Hollywood, making sure their home remained a place of warmth and stability. Alan often credits her with keeping him grounded. While his career took off, she worked behind the scenes to protect their private life. Their marriage wasn't just about grand romantic gestures. It was about the small moments that held them together. They shared the same humor and values, and they never stopped enjoying each other's company. When Alan was diagnosed with Parkinson's years later, they faced it the same way they had faced everything else, together. As Alan's career soared, he and Arlene made a choice. They wanted their family to have a normal life, far from the pressures of Hollywood. They raised 3 daughters, Eve, Elizabeth, and Beatrice, with that goal in mind. Alan was a well-known actor, but at home, he was just Dad. He made sure to be there for important moments, no matter how busy his schedule was. Of Hollywood. In 2015, Alan noticed small changes in his body. His thumb trembled slightly, and he started acting out dreams in his sleep. He went to the doctor and got the diagnosis: Parkinson's disease. He didn't share the news right away. He needed time to process what it meant for his future. 3 years later, in 2018, he decided to go public. He revealed his diagnosis on CBS This Morning because he wanted to tell the world on his own terms. More than that, he wanted to help others. Instead of letting Parkinson's slow him down, he took an active role in managing it. Alan focused on movement to keep his body strong. He took up boxing, played singles tennis, and even marched to music as part of his routine. He spoke openly about his journey, hoping to encourage others facing the same challenges. His message was clear: life doesn't stop with a diagnosis. there is still so much to enjoy, so much to do. Meanwhile, Alan Alda's time as Captain Benjamin Hawkeye Pierce in MASH was more than just a career milestone. Alda has admitted that playing Hawkeye forced him to confront his deepest fears, especially about life and death. The character's sharp wit and sarcasm weren't just personality traits. They were coping mechanisms, a way to push back against the horror of war. In many ways, Hawkeye's struggles mirrored Alda's own thoughts about mortality and the human condition. Despite all his success, Alda has admitted to struggling with imposter syndrome throughout his career. Even after winning 6 Emmy Awards for MASH, he often felt like he wasn't good enough. He feared that one day people would realize he didn't deserve the praise he had received. That fear pushed him to keep proving himself, to take on new challenges, and to never settle. Alan Alda's career is a story of talent, dedication, and a deep love for storytelling. Tom Hanks introduced him, setting the stage for a speech that was warm, thoughtful, and full of wisdom. Alda spoke about the importance of empathy, both in acting and in life. His words carried even more weight because he had recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. But he didn't let that slow him down. He kept acting, kept advocating for science communication, and kept reminding people why storytelling matters. His passion for helping others has been just as strong as his love for acting.
Well, I think the one thing that I wanted to show here is that Parkinson's has a lot of different characteristics, and some of it can be delusional thinking, or something to do with your ego, or something that might be a little bit different than others. You may not have the tremors, and you may not be as easily identified. I wanted to show the varying degrees, and you see a lot of differences when you see Ryan Reynolds, the actor's dad, apparently having a lot of things that he did which created an image or thoughts that he must have had something really strange about some of his activities, like going nuts. And then, I wanted to show, Michael J. Fox and what we have come to expect when you see people with Parkinson's, and you think, well, they don't match up to Michael J. Fox because he's been the face of Parkinson's for a good little bit, for a lot of reasons. He's raised over $2 billion, so he has a lot of public image, and he has did documentaries, and of course he's been in some of the TV shows. And then Alan Alda, which is kind of one of my favorites because I can identify a lot of things that's going on with him, mainly because of his concern about sympathy and empathy, and having a lot more concern about people. And of course, with a daughter with birth defects, I've had a little bit different thought on people with disabilities, and we've tried to kind of mix that together. How it's been good that we can encourage each other. So I think you'll see that as part of the backstory on our situation. Is it's easier for us to help each other because we have some similar needs, and so that's how this podcast got started. And I think I have, I know I have some podcasts there with Sid Shreve. We talk about how it came about, and we may go back to that at some point, but at this point I think the point's made. So I wanted to kind of show maybe some things that we're seeing from national leadership, and why it's become an issue. And I can guarantee you that the past president or the current president have never taken the 4-hour test. I think they would be afraid to, because it would be an indicator that they have Parkinson's, and sometimes it has to get down to that battery of tests to make a final determination. But there's a lot of delusional things that's going on today and how things are handled that I think need to be considered, even as much as what we saw even with Biden. Some of his was physical, but we're seeing a lot more mental today, and it gets to be delusional and things that are happening that shouldn't be happening on the level of the presidency, and some of that is pay for play, or some of the people being asked to make unreasonable contributions in order to be considered for opportunities, which just hard to believe that we've gotten to that point as far as leadership to be so open and asking for something in order to get something done. I mean, in the old days and what we know when we think about the mafia and everybody else, we see some of those things happening, but not on the open level that we are today.
Hallmark test for cognitive performance.
What do you do in this test?
A lot of things. So, for example, they may have you say as many words as you can in a minute that start with him and Trump. You should put your money where your mouth is. He definitely has it. But the problem is, when you look at his situation, you can't say, oh, I know for a fact that because he didn't retrieve the word, he didn't know what he wanted to say. And that's why both him and Trump should take the 4-hour neuropsychological testing, which is the Hallmark test for cognitive performance.
What do you do in this test?
A lot of things. So, for example, they may have you say as many words as you can in a minute that start with F. Block building, retrieval. I may say cup and have you recall it 3 minutes later. Trail drawing. These are done with a professional PhD in neuropsychology. Has nothing to do with psychiatry. And we can tell if you have vascular.
It's 4 hours long?
4 hours. It's a full day. We tell people bring a snack. It is a full day. And so not the MOCA, which was a bedside test that President Trump took. These are tests that are screening tests. They don't rule in, if you do great.
There's no way to sort of lie in this test, to sort of ace it even though you're sick.
No way. This one it will come out in the wash. For example, if I do the bedside exam to an accountant and I ask them, what's 100 minus 7? Even the worst neurodegenerative patient, if they worked at a high education level or something like that, is going to get that right. But in the 4-hour test, it will come out.
Just for the halibut they did?
And filet mignon and a salad. But people were underwhelmed by the food.
Wow, that's great. Was it halibut and the filet mignon, or was it either or?
Either or.
Oh, it wasn't
Good.
Wow.
Got
details here.
For the amount of money that it cost, it should have been
$1.8 million on average.
Should have been surf and turf. You should have had with butter.
So, yes, the average attendee at that dinner paying $1.8 million to attend, according to blockchain firm Nansen, to secure one of those just 220 highly coveted seats to sit down with the president for a private dinner in Virginia. Now, among those in the room, former NBA star Lamar Odom, Sandy Carter of Web3 firm Unstoppable Domains, and the #1 token holder, Justin Sun, a Chinese-born crypto mogul being sued by the SEC, who holds more than $20 million worth of those Trump meme tokens. But for an event billed as the most exclusive invitation in the world, many guests left disappointed. Trump arrived by helicopter, gave brief remarks backing a U.S. Bitcoin reserve, and left without taking questions, photos, or promising anything new to the crypto industry. Now, outside, about 100 protesters held signs that read crypto corruption and Trump is a traitor. Senator Jeff Merkley joined them. He and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are backing the End Crypto Corruption Act. Senate Democrats are now also pushing an amendment to the Genius Act that would ban presidents and senior officials from directly or indirectly profiting from stablecoin ventures while in office. Now, since January, the Trump coin has generated over $324 million in trading fees, much of it flowing to 2 Trump-affiliated companies that control 80% of the supply. The coin plunged 6% as the event began, signaling a wave of sell-offs. The White House, meanwhile, insisting that Trump is not enriching himself, only acting, they say, in the best interests of the American public.
And it's not a stable coin. It's a meme coin. It's not backed. It has no intrinsic value whatsoever.
Exactly. But the Trump family is also behind World Liberty Financial, that crypto bank that we talked about, and they are issuing a U.S. dollar peg stablecoin.
Exactly.
It would likely be the most valuable gift ever given to the U.S. government from a foreign power. This is the airplane, a 13-year-old Boeing 747-8, known as a Flying Palace. The aircraft is larger and significantly more luxurious than the current Air Force One. The Qatari plane has 2 fully furnished floors, complete with plush carpet, leather couches, and 2 bedrooms.
It's known as the most luxurious private jet in the world. It features the biggest master bedroom in the sky, as well as some very plush living quarters and several private offices. Some of the 9 bathrooms on board have full showers and even a bidet.
America can afford their own plane and build their own Air Force One.
So you'd be advising him against taking this plane from the Qataris?
Yes.
I do think the jet probably sends the wrong signal to people, and I don't like the look or appearance of it, so I would hope that he would reject it.
Obviously, we don't want to be straight up accepting any type of gift from any foreign government.
He should turn down this gift. I'm not a fan of the Qatari airplane.
I also think that the plane poses significant espionage and surveillance problems. So we'll see how this issue plays out, but I certainly have concerns.
The deals going on right now: Saudi Arabia, 2 luxury towers, Live Golf Partnership, Qatar, Golf Club and Villas, UAE, luxury hotel cryptocurrency deal.
Including here in Saudi Arabia, where there is a Trump-branded tower on the way in Jeddah. In Qatar, where the president is heading tomorrow, his son Eric recently unveiled a new beach villa and golf community. His third stop on this trip, the United Arab Emirates, which is home to the major investments in one of the Trump's family newest ventures, the Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial.
President Trump's, quote, corruption tour of the Middle East. This was him landing in Saudi Arabia. Separately, the Trump family organization continues to pursue billions of dollars in real estate and associated deals in that country and region.
He is visiting this week. Some of the deals going on right now: Saudi Arabia, 2 luxury towers, Live Golf Partnership, Qatar, Golf Club and Villas, UAE, luxury hotel cryptocurrency deal.
Including here in Saudi Arabia, where there is a Trump-branded tower on the way in Jeddah. In Qatar, where the president is heading tomorrow, his son Eric recently unveiled a new beach villa and golf community. His third stop on this trip, the United Arab Emirates, which is home to the major investments in one of the Trump's family newest ventures, the Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial.
President Trump's, quote, corruption tour of the Middle East. This was him landing in Saudi Arabia. Separately, the Trump family organization continues to pursue billions of dollars in real estate and associated deals in that country.